I am Cassandra, 34 years old, a major and trauma surgeon with the United States Army. The satellite phone rang at 2 a.m. Kabul, time waking me in my cramped quarters at Bagram Airfield. Half asleep, I heard the fertility clinic's cheerful voice. Congratulations on your pregnancy. But I was in Afghanistan 7,000 miles from home. The devastating truth hit like incoming fire. My sister Amanda had stolen and implanted my frozen embryos. My mother's words cut deeper than any wound I had treated. She deserved motherhood more. You chose the military. If you are watching this story, please let me know where you are viewing from in the comments. Hit like and subscribe if you have ever felt betrayed by someone you trusted completely. Growing up in suburban Denver, Amanda and I shared a bedroom but little else. 3 years younger, she viewed life as a competition she had to win. When I made honor roll, she joined extra credit projects to boost her GPA higher. When I became varsity swim team captain, she became head cheerleader. Not because she enjoyed cheerleading, but because it garnered more attention at assemblies. My parents never saw the pattern, calling it healthy sisterly competition. Dad would ruffle Amanda's hair and say, "Always keeping your big sister on her toes. Huh, kiddo." Mom would beam with pride at having 2 ambitious girls. Neither recognized how Amanda seethed whenever I achieved something first, or how her accomplishments were calculated moves to eclipse mine. Despite this, I loved my sister. I understood her insecurity even when others missed it. When my high school graduation speech thanked her for pushing me to be better, I meant it sincerely. She refused to meet my eyes during the ceremony. Medical school had always been my dream, but the financial reality was crushing. My parents, both public school teachers, had modest savings for our education. My solution came in an Army recruitment booth at a career fair. Full medical school scholarship in exchange for service. Purpose, education, and financial security in one decision. Amanda called it throwing away my potential. My parents worried about war zone deployments, but I signed the papers at 22, feeling more certain than I had about anything before. At Walter Reed Medical Center, I met David during my residency. He was brilliant, kind, and understood the demands of military medicine because he shared them as an Army anesthesiologist. Our courtship happened between surgeries and training exercises. He proposed in the hospital cafeteria with a ring hidden in a blueberry muffin because it was the only time our schedules aligned that week. We married quickly, aware that deployments could separate us at any time. David deployed to Iraq first. During our video calls, we talked about our future family. 3 kids, he would say, holding up fingers to the camera. Enough for a basketball team with substitutes. When I turned 30, we began trying for a baby, but months passed without success. After a year, we sought fertility treatment. Tests revealed diminished ovarian reserve. My biological clock was running faster than my chronological age. The specialist recommended immediate IVF. The process was grueling, especially while balancing military duties. Hormone injections between shifts, ultrasound appointments at dawn, the emotional roller coaster of hope and disappointment. The physical discomfort was nothing compared to the psychological weight. Our first round produced 5 viable embryos. We decided to freeze them all rather than implant immediately, as both of us faced possible deployment. "They will wait for us," David said, squeezing my hand as we looked at the microscope image of our potential children, "when the time is right." The time never came for David. 3 months later, his medical evacuation helicopter was shot down over Mosul. No survivors. The military funeral, the folded flag, the hollow feeling as taps played, these memories blur together in my mind. What remains crystal clear is my decision about our embryos. They were all I had left of David and our dream. In my grief, I chose to keep them frozen. Someday I would carry his children. They would know their father through my stories, through his parents, through the legacy of his service. I could still give him the family we had planned. My third deployment came last year. Afghanistan Bagram Airfield, serving as a trauma surgeon for both military personnel and local civilians. Before leaving, I organized my affairs meticulously. Bills on autopay, my condo sublet to a fellow doctor, power of attorney for medical decisions given to Amanda. She had settled down recently, marrying Brian, a real estate developer. Her previous hostility seemed to have mellowed into adult acceptance of our different paths. How catastrophically wrong I was to trust her. The clinic's congratulatory call left me disoriented. I requested a moment to gather myself, then called back, my hands shaking as I dialed. Valley Fertility Associates. How may I help you? The receptionist sounded cheerful, oblivious to my turmoil. This is Major Cassandra Walker. I received a message about a pregnancy. There must be some mistake. I am currently deployed overseas. Silence stretched across the line before the receptionist responded, "One moment, please, Dr. Walker. Let me transfer you to Dr. Patel." The wait lasted only minutes, but felt eternal. My mind raced through possibilities, a mistake in patient records, a cruel prank, or something worse. Cassandra, Dr. Patel's familiar voice came through. "I am so sorry about the confusion. According to our records, your sister Amanda came in 6 weeks ago for an embryo transfer. She presented documentation stating she was authorized to access your stored embryos." My throat constricted. That is impossible. I never authorized anyone to access my embryos. She had your power of attorney paperwork and identification. Everything appeared to be in order. His voice dropped lower. I was not personally present that day. Had I been, I might have questioned it, knowing your situation. "Which embryos?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. All 3 remaining viable embryos were transferred. The procedure was successful. That is what prompted our congratulatory call. "I am deeply sorry, Cassandra. We are launching an internal investigation immediately." The remaining embryos, David's last genetic legacy. Our last chance at the family we had planned. The room tilted around me. "I need to speak with my sister," I managed to say, before ending the call. Calling Amanda required waiting for the satellite phone to become available again. 6 excruciating hours passed before I could place the call to her cell phone. "Cass," she answered brightly. "How is Afghanistan? Are you safe?" Her pretense of normalcy ignited my fury. "Drop the act, Amanda," the fertility clinic called me. A pause. Then, "Oh, I was going to tell you, but I wanted to wait until I was past the first trimester. Tell me what exactly that you stole my embryos, that you violated my trust in the most profound way possible." "I did not steal anything." Her voice hardened with the familiar defensiveness I had heard throughout our childhood. "Those embryos were just sitting there frozen. You are in a war zone. You might never come back. They were not yours to take." I struggled to keep my voice down in the shared communications area. "I gave them life, Cassandra. Something you were not doing. You chose your career over having a family. David would have wanted his children to be born." The mention of David's name from her lips sent a wave of nausea through me. "Do not speak about what David would have wanted. You barely knew him." "Well, his parents agree with me. They are thrilled to know his children will be born. They will be grandparents after all." That revelation hit like physical blow. "You involved David's parents in this. They deserve to know their grandchildren. Unlike you, I am giving them that chance." With each word, Amanda revealed how thoroughly she had calculated this betrayal. She had not acted on impulse, but had strategically orchestrated every aspect, accessing my medical records, convincing the clinic, even getting David's grieving parents on her side. This is not over, Amanda. What you have done is illegal. Good luck proving that with your power of attorney, giving me access to your medical decisions. Besides, what are you going to do? Try to force me to abort your dead husband's babies. How do you think that will look? The calculated cruelty left me speechless. She had backed me into an impossible position. I thought you would be happy, she continued, her voice softening into mock concern. You are so busy saving lives over there. Now you do not have to worry about these embryos anymore. I am giving them the family you cannot provide right now. I ended the call before saying something I would regret. The violation was complete. Amanda had not just stolen embryos. She had commandeered my future, my connection to David, and my reproductive choices. That night, sleep evaded me entirely. I lay on my cot, staring at the canvas ceiling of my quarters, cataloging all the times Amanda had taken what was mine. Borrowed clothes, never returned, credit for joint projects, even boyfriends in college. But this theft dwarfed all others. She had stolen children. My children, David's children. The next morning, I requested an emergency meeting with Colonel Richardson, my commanding officer. The white walls of his office at Bagram seemed unnaturally bright as I explained my situation, clinical terms, failing to capture the emotional devastation. Major Walker, I understand this is a personal emergency, but emergency leave is complicated. We are short-staffed as it is. His expression conveyed sympathy, but practical concerns dominated. Sir, my sister has illegally accessed and used my frozen embryos. This is theft of genetic material and medical fraud. I understand that, but can this matter be handled remotely? Through lawyers, perhaps? With respect, sir, I need to be present to file police reports, meet with lawyers, and address this in person. These are my last connection to my late husband. Colonel Richardson sighed, removing his glasses. Start the paperwork. I cannot promise anything, but I will support your request. In the meantime, I need you focused when you are in surgery. Can you do that, Major? Yes, sir. The lie came easily. Focus was exactly what I could not maintain. Later that day, my mother called. Her voice came through brittle and defensive. Cassandra, Amanda told me you are threatening legal action. You need to think about what you are doing. What I am doing, Mom, she stole my embryos without consent. She is giving those babies life. She and Brian will provide a stable, loving home, something you cannot offer right now. The betrayal expanded, engulfing another family member. Those were my and David's embryos, our future children. A future that may never happen. You chose the military over having a family. Amanda deserves this chance at motherhood. She has struggled while you have succeeded at everything. Her words made everything clear. My mother had always compensated for Amanda's insecurities by giving her extra attention, extra chances, extra forgiveness. This was the ultimate extension of that pattern. She deserved motherhood more than you, my mother concluded. You will be deployed for months, maybe years. These children deserve better than to wait for a mother who might not come back. After ending the call, I found myself gasping for air, an anxiety attack overwhelming me in the narrow hallway outside the communications center. A passing medic helped me to the medical unit where they monitored my blood pressure and heart rate. Stress reaction, the physician assistant concluded. Not uncommon here. Should we schedule you with the combat stress team? I declined. How could I explain that my battlefield was not in Afghanistan, but 7,000 miles away in a suburban fertility clinic? That night, memories of David ambushed me. Our wedding day, his parents crying with joy. Our small apartment near Walter Reed, cramped but filled with laughter. The plans we made, drawing nursery layouts on napkins during rare date nights. The bittersweet IVF process, his unwavering support through my hormone treatments. His last deployment, the promises to start our family when he returned. The next day, performing surgery became an exercise in compartmentalization. My hands remained steady as I removed shrapnel from a young soldier's abdomen, but my mind kept slipping to the embryos growing inside Amanda. 3 embryos, potentially 3 children. Would they all survive? Would they look like David with his hazel eyes and dimpled smile? During a brief break, I connected with a military lawyer, Captain Dawson. His assessment was blunt. Major Walker, this is an unprecedented situation. Reproductive law varies by state, and the power of attorney complicates matters. The fact that you are deployed adds another layer of complexity. Are you saying nothing can be done? No, but this will not be straightforward. You need a specialized civilian attorney in your home jurisdiction. I can recommend several. Further investigation revealed worse news. Amanda had used all 3 remaining viable embryos. The first 2 rounds of IVF had yielded 5, but 2 had been used in an unsuccessful transfer attempt before David's death. The 3 Amanda stole represented my last chance to have biological children with my late husband. Captain Dawson connected me with Jessica Abrams, a reproductive rights attorney in Denver. Our satellite call was brief due to connection limitations. This is reproductive fraud, identity theft, and potentially several other crimes, Jessica said. But we need to move quickly. Courts tend to favor the birth mother once pregnancy is established. She used my power of attorney to access my medical files, I explained. That is a clear abuse of the power of attorney. It was meant for medical decisions, for you, not authorization to access your reproductive material. Did you have any agreement about the embryos with your late husband? We both signed forms stating that in the event of death, the surviving spouse would retain control. Good. That helps our case. I will begin preparing documentation immediately, but we need you here to sign complaints and appear at hearings. Every day that passed with me still in Afghanistan felt like another victory for Amanda. The embryos continued growing inside her, while I remained trapped by duty and distance. Fellow soldiers offered support but could not understand the unique torment I faced. Family drama, one well-meaning nurse said. We all have it. You will sort it out when you get home. But this was not drama. This was theft of the most personal kind. 3 weeks of bureaucratic battles finally yielded results. I received 30 days of emergency leave and boarded a military transport to Germany, then a commercial flight to Denver. The journey spanned 36 hours, during which I oscillated between rehearsing confrontations with Amanda and strategizing with Jessica via email. Denver's familiar skyline against the Rocky Mountains should have felt like coming home. Instead, it represented the battlefield for an unimaginable war. Jessica met me at the airport, a tall woman with prematurely silver hair and eyes that missed nothing. We have filed initial paperwork, she said as we drove to her office. Cease and desist orders, though, those are largely symbolic at this point. The real fight begins tomorrow. I spent the night in a hotel rather than at my parents' home, a decision that spoke volumes about the family fracture. In the morning, I dressed in my military uniform. Is that appropriate for a family meeting? Jessica had asked. They need to remember who I am and what I have sacrificed, I replied. Amanda's house sat in a new development, 4 bedrooms, manicured lawn, the suburban dream home. Brian answered the door. his discomfort evident in his averted gaze. Cassandra the First, he began, but words failed him. Amanda appeared behind him 11 weeks pregnant, her hand resting protectively on her slightly rounded abdomen. The sight of her carrying my embryos, my and David's potential children, sent a surge of nausea through me. You actually came back from deployment. Her tone suggested my military service was a casual commitment I could abandon on a whim. Is that allowed? Emergency family leave, I replied coldly. For situations like identity theft and reproductive fraud. Brian winced. Perhaps we should sit down and discuss this calmly. The living room featured framed ultrasound images already displayed on the mantel. My children reduced to stolen property decorative elements in Amanda's perfect home. There is nothing to discuss, I stated. You stole my embryos. You violated my trust, my reproductive autonomy, and the law. Amanda's eyes narrowed. I gave these babies a chance at life while you were playing hero in a desert. The clinic was going to discard them eventually. That is a lie. They would have remained preserved until I chose to use them. When, after another deployment, after you turned 40, these babies deserve a present, dedicated mother, not someone who prioritizes career over family. Brian interjected Amanda. That is not fair. Cassandra serves our country. Her head whipped toward him. Whose side are you on? The question revealed the depth of Amanda's self-deception. In her mind, there were sides to choose, moral equivalencies to weigh, rather than a clear case of theft. Did you know what she was planning? I asked Brian directly. His hesitation told me everything. She said you had discussed it, that you were considering letting her surrogate, but wanted to wait until after deployment to finalize details. And you believed that without seeing any documentation, he looked at Amanda, realization dawning, I wanted to believe it. My parents arrived soon after my mother immediately going to Amanda's side, my father looking torn between his daughters. Cassandra, my father began, surely there is a way to resolve this without courts and lawyers. How exactly she cannot unsteal my embryos? My mother bristled. This kind of stress is not good for the babies. Amanda is doing something beautiful, giving life to children who might otherwise never be born. That was my decision to make. Mine and David's, no one else's. David would want his children to be born, my mother insisted, echoing Amanda's earlier claim. Do not presume to know what my husband would want. The family meeting devolved from there. Amanda cried performative tears while my mother comforted her. My father made ineffectual pleas for compromise. Brian sat in uncomfortable silence, occasionally glancing at me with what appeared to be guilt. Jessica, who had remained professionally silent throughout, finally spoke. Mrs. Walker has filed criminal charges for identity theft and civil action regarding the embryo theft. This meeting was a courtesy to inform you before papers are served. I suggest you retain counsel immediately. As we left, I noticed neighbors watching from windows and porches. Word had spread about the unusual family drama unfolding. At Jessica's office, she outlined our strategy. Criminal charges for identity theft are straightforward. The reproductive fraud is more complex because the laws are still evolving. We will argue theft of property, violation of consent, and breach of contract with the fertility clinic. And the embryos themselves, the potential children. Jessica's expression softened slightly. That is the most difficult aspect. Courts generally will not force termination of a pregnancy even under these circumstances. Our goal is to establish your parental rights. The case quickly attracted media attention. Local army doctor claims sister stole frozen embryos, read one headline. Family divided over unborn triplets, declared another. The coverage invariably portrayed Amanda as the nurturing vessel giving life, while I was characterized as the absent soldier trying to disrupt a pregnancy. Online comments were worse. Let the woman who actually wants to be a mother keep the babies, wrote one commenter. How selfish to leave embryos frozen while serving multiple deployments, said another. Jessica advised me to avoid social media entirely. Public opinion is irrelevant to the legal case, she assured me, though we both knew judges were not immune to cultural narratives. The community largely rallied around Amanda. Her church organized a prayer circle. Neighbors brought meals and baby gifts. My mother orchestrated this support network, positioning Amanda as the victim of my military mindset and inability to prioritize family. In this atmosphere, we received notice that the judge had scheduled a preliminary hearing. The night before, Jessica called with disturbing news. We have a problem. Your mother provided notarized statements claiming you had verbally expressed willingness to let Amanda use the embryos. She claims you discussed this before your deployment. Another betrayal, another knife twist. That is an absolute lie. I believed so, but it complicates our case. Family testimony carries weight. I spent that night sleepless, reviewing every conversation with my mother before deployment. Had I said anything that could be twisted into consent? Had I somehow contributed to this nightmare? The courtroom the next morning was packed with spectators and reporters. Amanda entered with my parents flanking her protectively, her maternity dress, emphasizing her pregnancy. I sat stiffly in my uniform, Jessica, arranging documents beside me. Judge Harriman, a woman in her 60s with piercing eyes, began by establishing facts. Yes, the embryos were created by my late husband and me. Yes, Amanda had used my power of attorney to access them. Yes, the pregnancy was progressing normally with triplets. This case presents unprecedented questions, the judge noted. The court must balance property rights, bodily autonomy, and the potential interests of the unborn children. Amanda's lawyer, a smooth-talking man named Richard Bennett, argued passionately about the sanctity of pregnancy and the best interests of the children. These embryos now have heartbeats. They are developing in a loving home, with two parents committed to raising them. Major Walker, while undoubtedly serving our country admirably, cannot provide the same stability. The preliminary ruling devastated me. While acknowledging the questionable means by which Amanda accessed the embryos, Judge Harriman declined to take any action that might endanger the pregnancy. The court recognizes Major Walker's property interest in the genetic material, but must prioritize the welfare of the developing fetuses at this stage. Outside, the courthouse reporters thrust microphones toward me. Major Walker, will you continue fighting for custody? Do you regret giving your sister power of attorney? How can you parent these children while deployed? Jessica hustled me to her car, shielding me from the barrage. This is only round one, she assured me. Preliminary hearings favor status quo. We have much stronger arguments for the full hearing. That evening, alone in my hotel room, I contemplated resigning my commission. My military career suddenly seemed hollow compared to the loss of my family dreams. The structure and purpose that had sustained me after David's death now felt like the very thing that had cost me his legacy. As I considered this drastic step, my phone rang. An unknown number. Cassandra, it is Brian, Amanda's husband. Can we meet? Brian suggested a coffee shop 20 miles outside Denver to avoid being seen. When I arrived, he sat hunched in a corner booth, eyes darting nervously to the door. "Thank you for coming," he said, voice barely above a whisper. "I cannot stay long. Amanda thinks I am at a work meeting. His furtiveness spoke volumes about the household dynamics. Why are we here, Brian? Because this was not spontaneous. He slid a folder across the table. Amanda has been planning this for over a year. Inside were printed emails between Amanda and various fertility clinics dating back 14 months. Inquiries about access protocols, questions about power of attorney limitations, research on embryo transfer success rates. She created a separate email account for this research, Brian explained. I found it when using her laptop last week. There is more. She has a journal where she detailed everything. Why are you showing me this now? You sat beside her in court yesterday. His face crumpled. I thought she had your permission. That is what she told me. When we got married 2 years ago, she said starting a family was her priority. After months of trying, she suggested surrogacy or adoption. Then, suddenly she mentioned your embryos. He described how Amanda had positioned it initially, a hypothetical discussion about helping her sister preserve David's legacy while continuing my military service. The plan evolved over months, becoming more concrete, more calculated. She said you had verbally agreed, but wanted to wait until after deployment to formalize arrangements. It seemed plausible. Why would I question my wife about something so important? But you must have suspected something when she used my power of attorney without me present. He nodded miserably. I thought the paperwork was handled before you deployed. She forged your signature on clinic documents. I only discovered that last week when I found the practice sheets in her journal. Practice sheets. Pages where she practiced your signature until she could replicate it perfectly. The premeditation stunned me. This was not an impulsive act, but a meticulously orchestrated theft. Why tell me now? Brian stared into his untouched coffee. Because this is wrong, and because. He hesitated. Amanda has been different since the pregnancy. Controlling, obsessed. She talks about the babies as if they have always been hers. She has cut off friends who question the situation. Your parents enable her completely. I feel trapped in a lie that keeps growing. Will you testify? Make a statement to the police about the forgery. His fear was palpable. I cannot testify against my wife, the mother of... He caught himself. I just wanted you to have this information. Use it however you need to. But please do not tell her where you got it. As Brian left, his shoulders hunched with the burden of complicity, I realized I was dealing with something far beyond sibling rivalry. Amanda's obsession had morphed into something pathological, supported by my parents' enabling and Brian's passive acceptance. Jessica was cautiously optimistic when I showed her the evidence. This proves premeditation and fraudulent intent. It strengthens both the criminal and civil cases substantially. The criminal investigation accelerated. Detectives interviewed clinic staff and collected signature samples. Forensic analysis confirmed the forgery on multiple documents. The fertility clinic, facing potential liability, provided complete records, showing exactly how Amanda had manipulated their protocols. Jessica filed motions for an emergency hearing based on the new evidence. Meanwhile, I reached out to David's parents, Arthur and Eleanor Hamilton, who had been told by Amanda that I had willingly donated the embryos. Our meeting at their modest home in Colorado Springs was tense initially. Eleanor's eyes kept drifting to my uniform. Amanda told us you had decided your military career made motherhood impossible, Arthur said, that you generously allowed her to carry David's children so his legacy would continue. That was never true, I replied softly. Those embryos were all I had left of David and our dream. I never consented to anyone using them. I showed them the evidence of Amanda's deception. Eleanor began to cry. "We just wanted to see our son live on through his children. Amanda seemed so sincere." "I understand that desire. I share it. David wanted those children too with me when the time was right." By the end of our conversation, the Hamiltons had shifted from confusion to outrage on my behalf. "We will support you," Arthur promised. David would be appalled by this manipulation. The emergency hearing was scheduled just days before I would need to return to Afghanistan. Judge Harriman's expression was stern as she reviewed the new evidence. "The court takes very seriously these allegations of forgery and intentional deception," she stated. "This case now encompasses criminal fraud in addition to the complex issues of reproductive rights." Amanda appeared less confident this time, her hand constantly rubbing her now visibly pregnant belly, as if to remind everyone of the lives developing within. My mother sat behind her glaring at me with a mixture of disappointment and defiance. The forensic document examiner testified about the forged signatures. The fertility clinic's compliance officer explained how their protocols had been circumvented. Brian was conspicuously absent. Then came the most damning evidence, Amanda's journal, obtained through a search warrant of her home office. Jessica read excerpts aloud. March 15th. Researched power of attorney limitations. Medical POA should be sufficient to access the embryos if I present myself properly. June 8th. Practiced Cassandra's signature again. Getting closer to the real thing. Need more exemplars. September 3rd. Clinic appointment tomorrow. Have all documents prepared with Cassandra's signature. Will wear medical scrubs to create impression of medical authority. Amanda's face drained of color as her meticulous planning was exposed. Her attorney attempted to object on privacy grounds, but Judge Harriman overruled him. These documents were legally obtained through a valid warrant based on probable cause. When Amanda took the stand, her previous victim narrative crumbled under questioning. "Miss Walker, did your sister ever explicitly give you permission to access and use her embryos?" Jessica asked. "Not in those exact words, but—" "Yes or no, please." "No, but she would have wanted—" "Did you forge your sister's signature on clinic documents?" A long pause. "I signed her name because I knew she would approve eventually." "Did you create a plan to access these embryos over a year ago documented in your journal?" Amanda looked to her attorney, who nodded grimly. "Yes." "Did you tell your brother-in-law and your parents that Major Walker had given verbal consent when she had not?" "I was doing what was best for everyone. Those embryos deserved a chance at life." Her outburst seemed to confirm every allegation. Judge Harriman called a recess, during which Amanda's attorney approached Jessica about a potential settlement. "The offer Amanda would acknowledge my parental rights in exchange for dropping criminal charges." "Absolutely not," I insisted, when Jessica relayed the offer. "She needs to face consequences for what she did." When court resumed, Judge Harriman's ruling represented a dramatic reversal. The court finds compelling evidence of fraud, forgery, and reproductive theft. While the court cannot and will not take any action that endangers the ongoing pregnancy, it recognizes Major Walker's full parental rights to the children resulting from her stolen genetic material. The courtroom erupted in murmurs. Amanda began sobbing, my mother rushing to console her. Judge Harriman continued. Further, the court refers the criminal matters of identity theft, forgery, and fraud to the district attorney for prosecution. The defendant's actions represent a disturbing breach of familial trust and medical ethics. Outside the courthouse, reporters again swarmed, but this time I had a prepared statement. This case was never about preventing these children from being born. It was about addressing a profound violation of trust and reproductive autonomy. These children are legally mine. created from embryos my late husband and I produced together. I look forward to welcoming them into the world and honoring their father's memory. As cameras flashed, I caught sight of Amanda being hustled to a car by my parents, her face contorted with rage and despair. The victory felt hollow against the backdrop of a shattered family. The court ruling marked a turning point, but the battle was far from over. With only days remaining on my emergency leave, I faced impossible logistics. How could I assert parental rights while returning to a war zone? How would custody work with triplets and a sister charged with multiple felonies? Jessica helped me petition the Army for extended leave based on the extraordinary circumstances. You have unique grounds, she assured me. The military has protocols for family emergencies, and this certainly qualifies. While awaiting that decision, the criminal case against Amanda progressed. The district attorney, impressed by the evidence, charged her with identity theft, forgery, and fraud. Her attorney negotiated a plea deal, probation, mandatory therapy, and restitution in exchange for guilty pleas. Meanwhile, Amanda refused all contact, communicating only through lawyers. My parents maintained their support of her, my mother sending a scathing email. "You have destroyed your sister's life to satisfy your ego. I hope your military career comforts you when you have no family left." David's parents became my unexpected support system. Eleanor accompanied me to meetings with social workers and family court mediators. Arthur researched military family policies and connected me with advocacy groups for service members with family emergencies. "David would be proud of how you are handling this," Eleanor told me during a particularly difficult day. "He always admired your strength." The Army ultimately approved a transfer to administrative duties at Fort Carson in Colorado Springs, allowing me to remain stateside through the pregnancy and birth. The decision came with implications for my career advancement, but some priorities had shifted irrevocably. As Amanda's pregnancy progressed, practical questions multiplied. Would I be present for the birth? Would she comply with proper prenatal care? How would the children transition to my custody? A court-appointed mediator established protocols, though Amanda's compliance remained questionable. With Jessica's guidance, I prepared a comprehensive parenting plan, accounting for every detail from hospital procedures to long-term child care. The court ordered Amanda to attend joint medical appointments with a neutral observer present. Our first such appointment at 24 weeks revealed the triplets were all boys. Seeing them on the ultrasound monitor their tiny hands and feet, their hearts beating strongly, transformed everything. These were not just embryos or legal abstractions. They were my sons, David's sons. Amanda refused to make eye contact throughout the appointment, answering the obstetrician's questions in monosyllables. Her body language screamed resentment as the doctor explained the increased risks of a triplet pregnancy. "You will need to consider a scheduled C-section," the doctor advised, "and bed rest may become necessary in the third trimester." Amanda's compliance with medical recommendations became another battleground. She missed appointments, claimed to be taking vitamins she later admitted to skipping, and resisted the prescribed bed rest. The family court judge intervened, warning that her actions could be construed as endangering the welfare of the children. "These medical recommendations are not optional, Mrs. Jackson. Failure to comply could result in additional legal consequences." Only then did Amanda grudgingly follow the prenatal care plan. Brian, increasingly disillusioned with his wife's behavior, began contacting me directly about appointment details and medical updates. "She is not handling this well," he confided, after one tense doctor visit. "She still believes these babies are hers. She has their nursery fully prepared at our house." The psychological evaluation ordered as part of Amanda's plea agreement diagnosed significant narcissistic traits and boundary issues. The therapist recommended intensive treatment and expressed concern about potential postpartum complications. With the triplets' birth approaching, I secured a small 3-bedroom house near Fort Carson and began preparing for single motherhood of 3 infants. The logistics were daunting: multiple cribs, a rotating schedule of night nurses for the first month's childcare arrangements for when my leave ended. David's parents offered to move in temporarily after the birth. Army friends organized baby showers and meal trains. My commanding officer at Fort Carson proved unexpectedly supportive, arranging a flexible schedule that would accommodate the unique demands of my situation. Through all these preparations, the absence of my parents and the hostility from Amanda cast a shadow over what should have been a joyful time. My father called once, his voice hesitant. "Your mother does not know I am calling. She is struggling with all this. But I wanted to say that I would like to know my grandsons when things settle down." It was a small opening, but I welcomed it. "I would like that too, Dad." As the scheduled C-section date approached, the court finalized the hospital protocol. I would be present in the delivery room. The babies would be placed in my custody immediately following necessary medical care. Amanda would have no obligation for breastfeeding or physical contact with the infants. The morning of the procedure, I arrived at the hospital to find my parents in the waiting area. My mother avoided my gaze, but my father stood to embrace me awkwardly. "We could not stay away," he explained simply. The delivery proceeded efficiently. 3 tiny boys entered the world within minutes of each other, their newborn cries the most beautiful sound I had ever heard. Medical staff whisked them to the NICU for standard monitoring of triplets while Amanda was taken to recovery. In the NICU, I met my sons properly. James David after his father, Thomas Arthur after both grandfathers, Michael Robert after David's brother, who had died in childhood. 3 perfect tiny humans with David's chin and my eyes. The hospital staff, briefed on the unusual circumstances, treated me as the boys' mother without question. Nurses taught me to feed them, change them, hold their delicate bodies correctly. The NICU became my temporary home for the week they required monitoring. Amanda checked out of the hospital 36 hours after delivery, refusing to see the babies or me. My mother went with her. My father stayed tentatively, holding his grandsons and taking photos to share with my mother when she is ready. The day we brought the boys home from the hospital, Arthur and Eleanor Hamilton were waiting at the house with a home-cooked meal and 3 handmade blankets. Friends from Fort Carson had assembled cribs and stocked the kitchen. The support network I had built in the absence of my immediate family proved stronger than I could have imagined. The first months with triplets passed in a blur of feedings, diaper changes, and minimal sleep. The night nurses proved essential, as did the rotating volunteers who helped during days. David's parents stayed for 6 weeks, their presence a constant reminder of the family these boys had lost and gained through extraordinary circumstances. Amanda maintained her distance, communicating only through required legal channels. Her probation terms included continuing therapy, which her therapist reported she attended reluctantly. My parents gradually increased contact, first through photos and videos, then short visits that grew longer and more comfortable over time. My mother's resistance softened the first time she held all 3 boys together. "They have David's smile," she whispered, tears tracking down her cheeks. "I was wrong, Cassandra, so terribly wrong." Her apology came later, halting and imperfect, but sincere. "I always tried to make things equal between you girls, but in doing so, I enabled behaviors that should have been addressed long ago. I failed both of you." Rebuilding trust would take years, but that acknowledgement marked the beginning. My father proved more adaptable, becoming a hands-on grandfather who delighted in the chaos of triplets. 6 months after the boys' birth, I received transfer orders to Walter Reed, a position that would utilize my surgical skills while providing stability for my new family. The military, often criticized for inflexibility, had demonstrated remarkable accommodation for my unprecedented situation. Brian filed for divorce from Amanda, unable to reconcile with her actions, and subsequent refusal to acknowledge wrongdoing. During the proceedings, he provided a formal statement for my records documenting Amanda's deception and his unwitting role in it. Amanda herself remained the one unmovable piece in the healing process. Court-ordered family therapy sessions devolved into accusations and recriminations. Her perspective remained unchanged. She had given life to embryos that might otherwise have remained frozen indefinitely. In her mind, this justified any means. The therapist explained, "Your sister has constructed a narrative where she is the hero, not the villain. Dismantling that narrative threatens her entire sense of self." Eventually, I stopped expecting reconciliation and focused instead on establishing appropriate boundaries. The boys would know their biological connection to Amanda when they were old enough to understand, but she would have no special access or authority in their lives. As the boys grew from infants to toddlers, David's presence became tangible in their mannerisms, their laughter, the cowlick that all three inherited. Arthur and Eleanor moved to Colorado to be near their grandsons, bringing stories and mementos of the father the boys would know only through others' memories. My new position at Walter Reed brought unexpected connections. Former colleagues of David's sought me out sharing anecdotes I had never heard, filling in pieces of him that might otherwise have been lost. These stories became treasures to preserve for James, Thomas, and Michael. The legal aftermath continued for years. Amanda completed her probation, but faced civil lawsuits from the fertility clinic for damages to their reputation. My parents navigated the uncomfortable position of supporting both daughters through ongoing legal proceedings while trying to maintain relationships with all involved. The case established precedents in reproductive law. Medical facilities across the country revised their protocols for embryo access and transfer. Power of attorney forms began explicitly addressing reproductive material. Legislators in several states introduced bills specifically criminalizing reproductive fraud. On the boys' third birthday, surrounded by friends and extended family in our home near Walter Reed, I found myself watching the celebration with a sense of wonder. These children, born of scientific intervention legal battles and profound betrayal, showed no signs of their tumultuous beginning. They were simply three boisterous boys, blowing out candles, smearing cake on their faces, tearing through wrapping paper with gleeful abandon. David's parents presented a custom storybook they had created, telling a simplified version of how the boys came to be. "Your daddy and mommy wanted you very much," it read. "They created you with love and science. After daddy went to heaven, you waited until mommy was ready for you." Someday, they would learn the full story, the violation, the court battles, the family fractures, but the foundation would always be the same. They were wanted, they were loved, they were a dream fulfilled, despite impossible odds. My military career took a different path than I had once envisioned. I became an advocate for service members facing family crises, developing protocols and support systems that had not existed when my own crisis erupted. The sense of purpose that had once come from battlefield surgery now flowed from creating safety nets for others walking impossible tightropes between service and family. Amanda eventually moved across the country, remarried, and had no further children. My parents maintained relationships with her and with me separately, a delicate balance that improved with time and distance. The triplets received occasional cards and gifts from her, which I accepted with neutral acknowledgement of their source. The journey from that middle-of-the-night phone call in Afghanistan to our new normal spanned years of legal, emotional, and practical challenges, the triplets would never know how close they came to remaining frozen indefinitely, or how their very existence tested the boundaries of law ethics and family bonds. What they would know, what I ensured they understood from their earliest awareness, was that family comes in many forms, that love persists beyond death, that their father's legacy lived in their DNA and in the stories we preserved, that sometimes the greatest battles are not fought on foreign soil, but in courtrooms and living rooms, and the quiet spaces of the heart. If you have experienced family betrayal, or fought for something that was rightfully yours, please share your story in the comments below. How did you find the strength to stand up for yourself when others thought you should just let it go? Did you eventually find healing, or are you still on that journey? Please like this video. If my story resonated with you, subscribe to hear more real-life stories of resilience, and share with someone who might need to know they are not alone in their struggle. Thank you for listening to my journey from betrayal to blessing. Remember that sometimes our greatest challenges lead us to unexpected gifts we never could have imagined.